Hello and welcome to Arsenal Analysed. I'm JC. I hope you're doing well. Today I bring you tactical analysis on Brentford 0, Arsenal 3, back to winning ways, and more importantly, back to the top of the Premier League. And I'll be breaking down the full game for you today, bringing you all the stats, facts, and key moments. And if you are looking forward to today's video, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe if you're new around here, and get that notification bell button on. Let's waste no more time at all and jump into those basics. Kicking off with the starting lineup, we can see both teams on screen here. Arsenal setting up in their usual 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, if you will. And when we look at Brentford, it was very much a back five from what I understood. When they were in possession, they did make more numbers up in midfield. But as we'll come on to a later part of today's video, we can see that they were very much set up with a back five, three in front of them. Very much a low block, especially after the first few goals did go in. There are some individual performances that I do want to talk about at the very end of today's video. My two key players, if you will. But outside of those, I won't name them just yet. William Saliba, I thought, had a very, very good game. Gabriel at centre-back as well. There were a few mistakes in there, a few sloppy decisions, but he did play well. Kieran Tierney, one thing I will say is that he didn't play the normal role that we've seen this season in the system that Arteta has liked to play. He was utilised there when initially filling in for Zinchenko, but in today's game, we saw the old role, if you will. We've got some footage there to show you. Again, when we go through the match breakdown, Thomas Partey coming in after a few weeks out, few sloppy passes, but you can certainly see why and how we have missed Thomas Partey in this side when we look back at some of the last 2 or 3 games. Bukayo Saka, for a player that hasn't been playing well recently, supposedly, he's managed to bag himself another 2 assists today. So very much in and amongst the goals and assists again this season, slowly bringing himself back into that form that we were used to seeing last season. And Fabio Vieira is a player that we saw score not only his first goal and his first official start in the Premier League, but he topped it off with an absolute banger. Yes, please, more of that, thank you. Plenty of footage online of him doing that whilst he was at Porto. And then Gabriel Martinelli, who played more of an inside role, swapping quite often with Gabriel Jesus at times. Again, we've got some still pictures of that, and I'll want to run through that in a little bit more detail later on. If we have a look here at the very bottom of the screen, we can see those action areas. And you can see here, again, very much a lot of what Arsenal did came down that right-hand side. Now, what you can't see in these graphs is when you split these pictures up into even smaller increments, even smaller squares, you can't actually see how much Arsenal utilised those half spaces on the left and the right hand side. And I've got some great information to share with you just to show how Arsenal really exploited Brentford in those half spaces. And again, if we look at that graph in the middle there, not a lot of that ball was in Arsenal's third, only 20%, with the biggest battle coming in midfield, which is where most games are won, they say. But it's that 32% we can see there in the opposition third, Brentford's third. A lot of that possession came in Arsenal's favour at 64%, which is absolutely fantastic. 13 shots, which is a little bit lower than what we have seen from Arsenal in recent weeks, but still good numbers nonetheless. 2 big chances created, so we do like that. A lot of shots coming from inside the box. 8 in total. Arsenal are guilty sometimes of maybe overpassing that ball and not taking shots from outside the box. But we finally got to see that today. When Arsenal are sometimes struggling to break teams down, you want to see a shot from 20, 25, 30 yards even. Hopefully we now have that in Fabio Vieira. But generally speaking, when we look at the rest of those stats, some really, really good numbers there. By all means, pause the video and digest this information at your own pace. Now, if we have a look here at Arsenal's passing shape and individual player stats, when I mentioned a moment ago how Arsenal really did utilise those half spaces, on the right-hand side, we can see in that half space, we can see Fabio Vieira there. That's the position that Odegaard would typically tend to take up. Bukayo Saka just ahead of him. Ben White furthest back as well. But Arsenal not playing as wide on this occasion. Arsenal really looking to utilise that half space on the right-hand side. And what I mentioned about Kieran Tierney not playing in that Zinchenko-esque role as an inverted fullback, we can see here on the left-hand side, he's definitely the furthest player to the left, often getting out wide and up that wing, creating overloads for players on that side compared to the right. But it also allows the likes of Granit Xhaka, Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus loving to peel off to this left-hand side to create those overloads in the left half space. And I do think that this is an area of the pitch where Kieran Tierney is far, far more suited. And oddly, we can see here that Gabriel Martinelli is further forward than Jesus. And we'll have some pictures to show you in just a moment at how well this particular system was. Thomas Partey playing just in front of the back four or back two. Arsenal playing that 2-3-5, if you will, something that Arteta has implemented very, very well since taking charge. And on the right-hand side, we've got a number of individual stats for you to digest. We won't go through them all, but we saw a debut from Ethan Nwari today, 15 years old. Not only the youngest ever Arsenal player to feature in the Premier League, but the youngest ever player to feature in the Premier League at 15 years old. But generally speaking, when we look at some of those numbers across the board, some really, really good ones there. You're looking at our centre-backs in Gabriel, Benjamin, White and Saliba. Great aerial duels, one in there, and ground duels. Passing accuracy across the board. Jesus with 92%, which is great. It's been quite low previously. Bukayo Saka with 93%. Sambi Lokonga, who only came on for a few moments, 100% in there. One player that we often see with really high passing completion is William Saliba, which was actually down this week at 89%. So very much unlike him. Duels 1, we've got Gabriel Martinelli involved in 14 duels, 5-1, very much amongst it, being an absolute nuisance. Maybe picking some tricks and tips off of Gabriel Jesus, who was involved in 17, winning 5. So some fantastic numbers in there. As I already said, feel free to pause the video at this point and go through this at your own pace. Now, one slide that we won't be going through in too much detail is the opposition's passing shape and stats. I can't really think of too many players that really set the world alight for Brentford. There were question marks over whether or not Ivan Toney and Mbeumo were going to have very, very good games. They've been an absolute threat and danger this season to a lot of oppositions. They didn't really get going today. Damsgaard was operating in that midfield area when he came on for those 27 minutes, opening little spaces, done very, very well at his previous club. De Silva, who's had some good start to the season, didn't really hit the form that he needed. And Aaron Hickey, for those regular watchers on the channel, a big fan of this player. I thought Arsenal might sign him in the summer window, but it weren't to be. But looking here at Brentford's passing shape, we can see here number 20 and number 2 being their right-hand side, 16 and 3 being their left-hand side. As I mentioned, there were times where it was 5 in midfield. There were times when it was 5 at the back. We can just see there how close together that back 4, back 5 is with that midfield, which was sometimes 3 and sometimes 5. Very, very low block, making it difficult to operate, in between those lines. Arsenal broke those lines very, very well today. And we can see just between the number 2 and number 10, the number 20 and number 18, there's that little gap there of that half space. And likewise with the 17 and the 3 on the opposite side, a nice little gap there. Arsenal did very, very well at exploiting these spaces. Having a look at the key moments in the game, picture number 1 and 2 is from the very first goal. Very easy to break down. Bukayo Saka with a cross in. Arsenal have been a danger not only last season, but we're continuing with this very dangerous form from set pieces this season, which is great to see. Saliba makes a run towards not the near post, but the sort of the near area of the 6-yard box. Wins the flick on header, which loops over the goalkeeper. And as we can see here in picture number 2, the ball is clearly over the line. Goal line technology coming to the rescue. And the referee whistles for Arsenal to go 1-0 up. Picture number 3, what a goal for me. Goal of potentially the game. This is a bit of a decider between this one and Fabio Vieira's. And the reason I say this is because there were at least 20 to 25 passes in the build-up to this goal, all the way from the back, from left to right. before Granit Xhaka puts an absolute peach of a ball inside the box. Very much to, I would say, it looked like it was going to go over Gabriel Jesus. And when Jesus does eventually latch onto the end of this ball, there's still so much for him to do. Granit Xhaka with a great pass, managing to loop it over the defender. And as I said, Gabriel Jesus still with plenty to do. And he loops the ball into that top left-hand corner, top bins finish. And he gets back on the score sheet, a player that I said in my preview that I wanted to see get back amongst the goals. And Granit Xhaka as well. He has been absolutely fantastic this season. He's outdone himself in terms of goals and assists already compared to every single season since he's been at Arsenal. And we're only 7 games in. This new, more advanced role certainly does seem to be suiting him compared to some of those previous roles he played, not only under Arteta, but previous managers. Looking here at picture number 1 was that fantastic strike from Fabio Vieira. Not too much to analyse here. We can see Bukayo Saka in picture number 1, that yellow circle, playing the ball square to Fabio Vieira in the red circle. He managed to pick up 2 assists from that corner and this pass today, as already mentioned. And in picture number 2, he strikes the ball from, 25 odd yards. It hits the post and goes in. I don't think he realises whether or not this ball is actually going to go in at the point. When we see a different camera angle, for those of you who did watch the game, when you're looking at it from the behind the goal position, he's looking at it thinking it's going to hit the post and come back out, but it hits the inside of the post. Absolute screamer. What a way to mark your debut, your home debut in the Premier League. Not a bad understudy for Martin Odegaard at all. Now, in picture number 3, there were some things that I wanted to highlight, as mentioned to you right back in picture number, slide number 2. We saw where Arsenal were operating in those half spaces. Now, at the very top of picture number 3, we can see there, that's Kieran Tierney. Just next to him is Gabriel Jesus. Granit Xhaka, who's literally about to lay the ball off to him. And then in that red circle, we have Gabriel Martinelli. Gabriel Martinelli operating more on the inside compared to the outside, which is the space that someone like Zinchenko would typically tend to take up. And Gabriel Jesus dropping into that half space as well, which is another area that you would sometimes see Zinchenko or even Gabriel Martinelli if Zinchenko was playing. So it was nice to see that rotation. It was nice to see Arteta being able to adapt given the personnel that was available. But as we've seen, not only this season, but in last season, whenever Arsenal are attacking, we've always got 5 players forward, and those yellow circles highlight that line that Arsenal are playing, that 5 attacking line in Kieran Tierney, Jesus, Granit Xhaka, Fabio Vieira, and just off screen to the right-hand side, that's where Saka has situated himself. And you can see there, those Brentford players, those 2 low block lines, making it very difficult for Arsenal to break those lines and operate. But Arsenal were very, very good. And this is further highlighted in picture number 4. We can see that back 5 of Brentford playing very, very narrow, meaning at times Arsenal did have to play wide. And you can see here in the picture that Ben White is the furthest player to that right-hand side. But when I mentioned right back in the very first slide, sometimes when it's difficult to break teams down, when they're playing very narrow, deep, low blocks, it's difficult to break teams down. You have to take shots from distance. And this is highlighted in picture number 2 and picture number 4. Yes, we were comfortable at this point of the game. We were already 2-0 up. But there have been games in the past where Arsenal have been maybe losing 1-0 or it's a draw. There's 10 minutes to go. And Arsenal, yes, whilst it's great to show patience to maybe unlock the door, sometimes it's also very, very good when you've got the necessary quality to take these shots from distance. So this was absolutely fantastic to see. And the 2 players that I want to focus on for today's video is Granit Xhaka, captain today in the absence of Martin Odegaard. He did play the full 90 minutes, winning 3 duels out of 5. Very, very, very good. 89% passing accuracy. But just as I said before, this more advanced role is really, really suiting him. 1 assist and 3 key passes. 2 big chances created as well. And there were opportunities in the first half that didn't come to anything because of a pass that he made. But he was in a position to shoot and maybe even score. So I was really, really, really pleased. And you can see this is highlighted in the heat map. We've seen in previous seasons that he's more situated in his own third, more towards that left back position. filling in for the likes of Kieran Tierney when he bombs forward. But in this heat map, we can see here that he's very much situated in pushing himself forward in front of the likes of Thomas Partey, supporting Gabriel Martinelli and Jesus, who peeled off to that left-hand side during today's game. Speaking of which, Gabriel Jesus involved in 17 duels, absolute nuisance, 5 of which won. Given a goal today, which was fantastic stuff. 4 shots, 2 successful dribbles, 92% pass completion. His dribbles at time today were absolutely first class. His feet are so quick. He makes it so very difficult for defenders. He was given the official man of the match from Sky Sports. And I do believe that Jesus, Granit Xhaka, Fabio Vieira and Saliba were up for man of the match. So let me know down in the comments below who was your man of the match from those 4 players. For me, it's Gabriel Jesus. He completely adds a different dimension to this Arsenal side. He's taken us to the next level and we are back at the top of the Premier League. If you have enjoyed today's video, go ahead and smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new around here. Notification bell button on, because our next game is the North London Derby. And boy, what an occasion that is. But for now, I'm JC and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe and take care.